I'm Sir Flowbojan Thunderhammer.
And I'm Teflon Frosthammer.
And I'm Cabbage Tidehammer.
And this
is
WAK.
If Amtgard knighthood means anything, you can't knife a motherfucker and keep it.
And the thing that people need to understand essentially about arts and sciences events is that your scores don't matter.
Do you want a black phoenix or a white phoenix?
Jeez, language, man. We're on
right.
a freaking podcast, for fuck's sake.
Mind-blowing experience, right?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to WAK, where we discuss topics important to the Amtgard community at large and talk with interesting people from around the foam fighting world. This week, we have another Radiant Valley special here. This is Man-at-Arms Patches, Man-at-Arms to Sir Gillen. We've been wanting to have you on the show for quite some time, so thank you so much for joining us, Patches.
Sure thing.
So we always jump off asking how our guest got into Amtgard. So how did you find Amtgard? What drew you in, and what keeps you playing today?
So I started when I was 16, 17 years old. My cousin Daniel was like, hey, this is a really cool thing. They do it out in Knoxville. You should come check it out. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool, man. Let's do that. So we go out and we... Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But we...
Because you need him for leveling.
Yeah.
We are disgustingly professional, everyone.
Of course. All right. He could have just had mine.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, so I was like 16 or so, got into it, and then the park died. And I really didn't have any contact information because that was before really everyone had cell phones and things like that. So I didn't really have a way of going like, oh, I'll call Zeb and he'll tell me where the park is, because I didn't know him that way and I didn't know any of them that way. And I was like 16, so no one's going to give me their number.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, like, I found it again in college. It had moved to another part of Knoxville, and then it had moved again to Oak Ridge, and then I kind of stayed after that.
Okay, I was going to say, I know originally Mystic Glade moved a couple of times and then dissolved, and Oak Ridge was where Radiant Valley was meeting, so that's sort of where it stuck, I guess.
It's a wonder that I stayed.
Yeah.
Like, it really is.
So for a while there, I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the show, but for a while, Knoxville Amtgard was kind of playing hide and seek with any players that actually wanted to come out.
Oh, yeah.
We moved parks over the course of 4 years. I think that we moved 5 or 6 times. I'm really not trying to exaggerate that number. I might be off by a little bit there, but it was quite a bit that we moved. And there was no Facebook that we could just... we were still using the Yahoo forms that you've heard me talk about before, and not everyone knew about those. So this was definitely a situation where it was lucky that you found us to begin with, and then even more lucky that you were able to find us again.
It went, did it go? Carl Cowan to John Bynan to Carl Cowan, then to Victor Ash, something like that?
It was John Bynan first.
Okay, John Bynan was first.
And then we went to, I think, to Carl Cowan next after that.
Yeah, Carl Cowan's the one I remember most.
And
fondly.
Then we went to what's the really fancy park over in
Sequoia Hills.
Sequoia Hills. We went to the Sequoia Hills one.
That was college for me.
Yep. And then very briefly we went back to John Bynan. We went to Victor Ash Park and met there for a little while, over on the little green near where Disc Golf Hole 1 is.
It's a miracle I didn't discover disc golf sooner. Just where we had these locations is like right next to disc golf parks.
And then we ended up moving back to John Bynan again. So yeah, there was quite a few moves there.
Oh yeah. There was a lot of time that I spent going. I could have sworn that we meet on Sundays here.
Oh, and Patches is right. We not only moved, we switched days as well. So
God, we really were trying to just like end our park, weren't we?
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Did a pretty good job of it too, I got to say.
Oh yeah. Anyone that lasted through Mystic Glade, if you started Mystic Glade and you're still here, then you're kind of a sadist.
Yeah, I agree. So you found us again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what happens from there? How do you find us again, and then what's your journey from that point?
Yeah, and how the fuck do you get belted to Gillen? Just out of curiosity.
Okay. So there's a lot that happens in between.
Yeah,
here
go
and
ahead.
there. So I had left because school takes kind of precedence over everything else. So I went to get a degree instead of trying to go for my sword belt, which having gotten one and not the other, should have stayed and gotten my belt.
Grass is greener.
I don't know. So one of them definitely would have made me a lot happier than the other one. It was like, I'm going to hang this in my office, and that's all it does. But no, I found everyone through kind of word of mouth. And at the time, Facebook was just starting to take off. So there was more groups and things that I could kind of go like, oh, all right. So I wonder if these guys are the same group that I used to play with when I was a kid. And then I showed back up and I was like, holy shit, it's the same fucking people.
And for a moment, he was sad for all of those adults he was watching.
It's a few moments of me just going like, oh man, that could have been me.
See,
I'm so happy it's not.
I remember you on the very first trip that we took down to Florida together.
Oh God!
And I don't know where that falls into like you starting to come back out. I think that it was shortly after.
That was after I came back out. So I started like fighting a whole lot and fighting like late and like more and more and more, and fighting with Zeb and fighting with Donnie and just doing a lot of things. So eventually I got invited to come down for a triad practice, and I had decided that no matter what, I was going to go because it would be a lot of fun, just go down, see everyone, meet some people that I'd never met before. So like people like Stinkfoot, that was like, oh, I only heard stories about this guy, and he's so amazing. And so
most of them were bad.
Never meet your heroes. Never meet your heroes. It's like, it was that thing. It's just like, and this is Stinkfoot?
You just need a translator, man, for Stinkfoot.
And now like, I'm like super tight with Stinkfoot now, but like at the time I was like, holy shit, this is the guy I built up in my head.
Yeah.
And like I ended up getting belted to Zeb before joining the triads, and he had asked me, I think it was at what's the cup's name for jugging that we went up to?
So that was in Kentucky, and I don't remember the name of it. They were actually holding a cup. As a matter of fact, the medals that are hanging, you can barely see them in frame there. Yeah. They gave out medals for the for this like jugging cup that they were holding up in Rising Winds.
There you go.
And it was a lot of fun. It rained the entire time. I don't mean a little bit. I mean those events that you go to where it is pouring, just the sky's torn open. We water wrestled. It wasn't really muddy. And then I think at the end of it, he gave you your belt, right?
Yeah, it was. Goose had told me like, "Hey, we need to go out and we need to fight," and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding, man? It's like it's raining sideways. I don't want to go out and fight in this shit right now. Like, we're gonna have to. We had to like. We were staying with Marlon.
We were.
And, there's a closely related story about Marlon and his door.
We'll get to that at the end.
Yeah, I'll get to that later. So Marlon let us stay there, and we came out, and it was pouring rain, and Goose got me out to the center of the field so they could go and get the belt that they were going to give me, and so that I wouldn't see it. And I was fighting, and he's like, "Yeah, you just need to show like initiative that you're willing to go out there and fight and all the rest," and just talked the most bullshit to get me out there, just soaked wet. And then after that, he gave me the belt, and he gave me the option of taking the belt. And you should always read fine print when you take anything from someone, any type of legal contract like that, because I was super excited because I really, really wanted to take the belt. I really wanted to take the belt because I wanted to be belted to Zeb, because Zeb was a great fighter, and I wanted to be I wanted to learn under him.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do. You take a belt only from someone that you feel like you can learn from and that you have good chemistry from. Now, granted, it's not exactly been a positive work environment. But because if you're looking for positivity, like I think E and I were at some, I think it was an SKBC. It's like, you need a positive work environment in order to grow as a fighter. And me and E just looked at each other. It was like, this is not for us. We should just go.
It's bullshit. I gotta
he
go.
is one of your brothers.
Yeah. He's
your Beltling brothers.
He's the last stop for me passing shit down the line, is what it is. Because it was Gun, and Gun would tell me to do something because Zeb had told him to do something, and then I would turn and tell E, and E had no one to turn to, so E had to do it.
I couldn't imagine telling one of you to do something and trying to get it passed on.
No,
Just be
nothing got done.
a smoke-shaped cloud.
How can we fuck this up so bad?
Yeah, that he'll
we
never
do
ask
him,
us to
Never
do
ask
something
us to do
again.
something
We
again.
do a bad enough job, he'll never ask.
No.
Or if it's a one-person job, we're like, hey, Flo, do you need any help? No? All right. Brownie point secured.
No, I was always I was always up for fighting, doing things like that. But for the most part, the rule in the belt line is if you're fighting, then Zeb will never ask you to do anything.
So everybody just stays
so
fighting.
You stay fighting.
Yeah.
So it accomplishes a goal no matter what. So either he can ask you to do something, or you're training yourself. So it's good. It works.
Yeah, that's cool too, because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about belt lines, and I think that we got a good cover of that. The things that I want to take away from here, I always try to do a pause at some point and talk to some of our newer players or players that haven't been playing quite as long. Sometimes belt lines get built up to be this big, huge thing. They are what you make them. They're as good as the people that are in them. They are. I think it's fair to everyone here would be fair to say absolutely subject to revision. If someone gets in there and then causes problems and things like that, it's not a permanent offer.
Yeah.
The fuck are y'all looking at me? Like I've done something. Hold on.
All of us were staring at him the whole time too. Man, I bet he could feel it.
Yeah, the side of my head started to smoke.
But the big thing to take away here was Patches had an idea of what he wanted to do in the game. He wanted to be a better fighter. He began talking with someone who was a better fighter that he had respect for and that he wanted to learn from. And then down the road, that turned into where you are now.
Yeah. Which I'm not entirely certain where that is.
That's why I left it ambiguous.
Yeah. It sounds better when you say it that way. But no, what I really wanted mostly was to be a good fighter. Before I knew that there were belts, before I knew anything about that, I would go and find people that were better than me, and I would try to beat them into the dirt. And most of my career has been spurred on, I guess is the right word, by spite, by just pure spite.
I won't let him beat me. That kind of mentality.
Yeah, it's. I would find someone that I disliked. It doesn't really matter. It could be your hair. It doesn't matter. Like, I just like that guy. I don't like him, and I would just I would try to beat him. And I would try to beat the next guy and the next guy. And then eventually, I learned about belts way later. And I didn't know that you could get a belt until later. I didn't have any interest in that. I just had interest in fighting.
Yeah. There's been, we kind of joke here, but there's been some really positive things that have that can come out of a mentality like that when it's kept healthy too, right? Things like, I don't want to lose like that again. Jeff absolutely smoked me. I dropped my jock back there. I'm going to need to go pick it up.
Yeah.
Jeff is going to beat me again today, but not like that.
Yeah. That's the idea.
Not unless I got the knowledge of that. Then it's going to be a game for me to try.
Yeah, that's why you never tell your enemies what you hate or what hurts you. Or your friends, for that matter.
It's a lot of that. It's a lot of spending time learning from people that you might not really even want to learn from, because everyone's got something to teach you. Everyone, no matter who they are, no matter what skill level they happen to be, they might have something that they do or say, or they well, it's like this, and oh, I never thought of it that way. And so you can't discount anyone from being a teacher. They just might not be the best teacher for you to stay with permanently or constantly. But everyone has something that they can show you, something they can do to make you a better fighter, or maybe just a better person, just in general.
Yeah, totally agree.
God, what am I caught on? So you had indicated earlier on that your sort of way of going about things was to pick somebody with shitty hair or whatever and make them a person that you have to beat, right? Make them a target, make them an enemy, whatever.
Yeah. Find
Is
something.
generally speaking, is that still how that works for you, or is there a different way you're doing things now? Like sometimes I'll go out to park and I'll be like, okay, I block 3 before I throw, or something like that, and that's how I get better. But like, what are you doing now? Is that the same?
Spite will only take you so far, although it's a great motivational practice, and I still recommend it today as a high level. Someone telling you can't is the best way to figure out how you can. And but what I normally do is I'll work on like a shot or a series of shots, or maybe a different technique or something. Wherever I'm weakest. The best way for you to do this is to say, find the set that you hate to do the most. And that's the one you're going to want to do like always. Like do that more than anything else.
Okay.
Yeah, at least that's the way I work on it. Is I'm like, I really hate this, and I know I hate fighting left-handed, so today I'm fighting left-handed. Because
I've got to practice for when I get armed bored, and this is my life today.
Yeah, man, you just get so good right-handed, you're not
I
armed
see.
anymore, right?
Yeah,
so that's how you go about it.
Yeah, that's fine. That might work.
No, because every now and then you're still stuck with lefty, and lefty hurts people.
Yeah, I mean that's okay though, because sometimes like left-handed shots and things like that are harder for people, especially obviously if you're right-hand dominant. Left-hand shots, it's harder to be precise or articulate this shot or that shot, and you just have to work through that block. And it's hard because it's so much easier to go like, well, I was winning with this one and winning feels good, so let's just switch back to right hand and we'll start winning again, and then we get the dopamine and it's great and everything's happy. But that doesn't help you if what you're trying to do is become better than you were yesterday.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those, and this is coming from your night. I stole this from him. When you go out, you don't have to go out the entire day saying, in this example, I'm only going to fight left-handed. What you do have to do is go out and say, I'm going to fight left-handed. Right? Do it for a while, and at the point that you just, when you're at the bottom of your self-loathing, then switch back to what you're comfortable with. It's just about getting some reps in, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, we've been talking quite a bit about fighting and different things like that. I wanted to touch on some things that you really like in the game too. I think that everybody here knows, and the audience is about to, that you really like tournaments.
Yeah.
You like the competitive part of the game. You are not unique in our park in that regard, but I think that a lot of times people that like that aspect of the game get kind of sandboxed in people's imagination into, oh, well, that's all they want to do or something like that, right? But I know that there's some other parts of the game that you like. You're actually a very good archer, and have put that to task with a couple of different classes in the game. So what are some other aspects of Amtgard that you really like?
Well, if we're not talking about, obviously, tournaments and fighting and the martial aspect of Amtgard, that's usually what draws me pretty heavily. But one thing I really enjoy is like weapon craft and like the general sort of like tech that goes into it, right? So like having good tech helps you a great deal, but that's not necessarily it leads into martial, but it is not necessarily in and of itself a martial discipline.
Is this like a process of creation that you really like?
Yeah, like I like the idea of creating newer weapons or better weapons.
How light can I make this?
Yes, how light can I make this before it snaps by fierce by just the wind coming off of it? It's like if I can make it so it feels like Stinkfoot has torque wrapped air, and just and made a stick that way, then that's pretty cool. But also everyone does it this way. Well, why do they do it this way? Why don't we do it some other way? Have we not thought about that, or is there a reason we can't? And that makes sense.
Yeah, and this is actually something that Jeff has actually played around with a lot of weapon experimentation like that too. Jeff and Lexi both actually have over the years. But you in particular, I think kind of took it to another level. You at one point said that my spare income, instead of going towards video games or anything else like this, is, at least for a while, going to feed my passion for deconstructing this weapon down to its purest form.
Yeah.
So, and this was, we mentioned Stinkfoot earlier. My former knight, he actually runs Uncle Stinky's workshop where you can buy swords and everything like that. And Patches, you worked with him quite a bit to figure out. So, talk to me a little bit about how you're still sane after after long conversations with Pat. If you listen, Pat, sorry, but it's true.
Yeah.
No way he listens.
So with Pat, I was basically the R&D department for a long time, like the sole R&D department, which means like if a sword breaks, it's not like me broke stick, make a new one, just like it's not like that. It's much more like, all right, I broke the stick, it's like a quarter from the knuckle, so the weak point is here, we fractured it this way, I was in use for this long, this was the weight of the stick, this was the core of the stick, this is the type of foam we used, this is the type of cover that we used, this is the type of handle. It was like, it was either omnidirectional or unidirectional handles, so like having a teardrop or having something like that, or having like a hexagon handle, things like that.
Yeah,
those things are really make a difference to how you hold your stick, how you manipulate things, and how you do things. So having a series of different materials that you can kind of change out and say like, well, what if we used X instead of this? Can we get X? And it's like, more or less like, well, we can, but it's only from this manufacturer. We're going to have to do this, and this is our profit margin. A lot of my R&D stuff, a lot of the stuff that people now have access to, was stuff that Stinkfoot and I had just sat down and said, like, look, man, this is going to cost about $150 for us to try once. So, are you cool with that? I'll send you the stuff down tomorrow, if you're okay with this, but know that we're probably only going to get like 2 sticks out of this max, and we have to figure out who these go to, and or the polearm that I use, which there's only 2 of those, and
right now,
yeah, I was going to say
right now,
so you get one for me.
Yeah.
Told you anytime. Give me the price.
Anytime. I did find the stuff for that, so nice. I'll get with you later on that. But pardon. Like most of that stuff is interesting to me because it has a real effect on every aspect of the game. Because if you learn how to make something lighter or better or last longer, then the initial cost of something could be a little higher than what you would normally pay for a stick, but then you get to keep that stick for a much longer time. So it means just changing out the blade, right? So instead of a golf club shaft that will inevitably shatter because after so many hits and so many times that you like hit like directly core to core, eventually that's going to break it down, and it's going to break down anything. I have carbon fiber sticks that have snapped at the exact same spot that graphite sticks have snapped, and there's no real difference in the juncture of like whether or not they will snap. The difference comes into how long till, and so lastability is a big thing, and it affects a lot more than that. It affects how like the actual role players can do things. So like if you have someone who wants to make some like more fanciful sword, well, that's going to add weight, and that's going to add this and that. So if we can find a core that will suffice for a lot of things, carbon fiber or this, that, or the other thing, then maybe they can make a longer sword that's not as floppy or not as this or not as that.
Not as heavy, not as likely to injure someone.
Yeah, not as likely.
That's not a role play or not role play thing. That's just when you start getting into bigger weapons, you also increase your chance of injuring yourself or somebody else.
Oh, yeah. And, if you're getting hit with something, I watched a guy cleave someone with a band shop pole that they had stuffed into a piece of foam that was technically legal because it matched everything, but the band shop pole had removed so much of the foam that when he hit the guy, it just knocked him out.
Yeah.
And it was basically a baton.
Is this Zeb? Do we have video?
No, it's not.
No, but we definitely have video of Zeb being knocked out.
At
by
least
do.
2 different instances of him
Yeah.
getting KO'd with a pole, so I didn't.
No, it's
The odds felt good.
Yeah, the odds would be good, but no, not anything I was ever a part of.
Yeah, so this is very much applying sort of the scientific process to weapon making. It's researching different materials and seeing which ones had more longevity, were lighter. I even remember a phase where you handed, I still have it sitting over there as a matter of fact, you handed me a stick and said, "This is a tournament stick."
Oh, yeah.
What I mean by that is this is going to snap in your first 30 swings, but it will be beautiful until then.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was one of the experiments that had failed that you still had some stuff you were getting rid of. I'll go grab it here in just a sec. But very much applying sort of a scientific process and keeping notes on everything that happens. Oftentimes on the show, we are talking about some money-saving things or some ways to get into this for that's not as expensive or something like that. This is very much on the other side of that, but I think that there's a lot of people that may still find it interesting.
Well, it's also sort of kind of like the whole poor person buying a lesser pair of boots over and over again, and someone
just about to make this example.
and someone who has a little bit more money buying a better pair of shoes or boots or whatever, and then making them last longer, and in the long run spending less money.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of deal.
Oh, I remember
Yeah,
this
like
one.
I bought a pair of boots 10
put
years
my
ago
name on
for
the bottom.
$300 that are still holding up great, and that's $30 a year. Where if somebody has to pay $40 pair of work boots every year, I mean, there's already a savings. So, yeah, like it's just about to make this example. There's a quality over quantity argument to be made.
Yep.
That one is definitely.
For those for the like 80% of our listeners that are on
God.
Spotify, that sword is so light. It
No
is
way
beautiful.
this lasts
No,
any amount of time.
That's what makes it beautiful. Is it won't last.
And the thing about it is the reason Flo got this one is it's too heavy for me. It's just,
You bastard.
it's too heavy. It's one of my ones that was like, it's all right.
Yeah,
but,
that's probably about half the weight of the normal swords that I use.
It's don't say things like that, Jeff, because you beat me with some of those swords, and it's upsetting because I pick up his stuff and I'm just like, oh, it's
bad.
I don't.
It sometimes looks like it's good. It's not.
It's not. It's poorly
Dress it up.
weighted. It's lumpy in weird places.
It's not quite that bad, but it's close.
You're having to shimmy the foam around.
Hey, listen, it's because I broke it down 10 years ago and still using the same sword somehow or another.
It's like Zeb's board that somehow keeps together through hate.
Softboard.
Yeah, soft board.
Yeah.
That board is so old. But
I'm convinced if the cover ever comes off, it will just disintegrate.
yeah,
Like
fall apart.
that's what's holding it all together.
He's getting a new cover for that board.
No.
He is.
I like that he's replacing the cover more than the board.
Yeah. The cover's being replaced, and I've asked him to make like belt favors from.
Oh, that's actually kind of cool. I like
No,
that.
you almost have to frame it or
Yeah.
something like a
Yeah,
retired jersey.
Yeah, I just want like a cut so I can like wrap it as like I was around when this was still on the. It was like this was navy at one point. It really was. I promise.
I don't even know what color you'd call it now.
It's so
Dusty
light.
blue.
It's like light. Yeah, it's like a powdered blue that's been thrown in the dirt.
There's so much dirt that's just caked into the blue that it's kind of like its own color inside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get a picture and toss up in the
Oh man.
in here.
Yeah, you should.
But the reason that I wanted to I want to circle this back around, and the reason that I wanted to, and the reason that I mentioned you and Lexi doing some experimentation earlier is this. So you can go really expensive with this. Like we said, Patches looked into cores that just the core alone was $200 or more. For the sake of the fun of the experimentation and the excitement of getting a sword that is, it is the perfect sword, or whatever quest you happen to find yourself on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But Jeff and Lexi have done quite a bit of experimentation too. They weren't looking to make the lightest sword ever. Some of them were just silly swords. I remember you made some like 5 foot long, like fencing swords, effectively.
Yeah.
The
Those
rapiers are so
Yeah.
fun.
They just had like little stabby
They had
tips.
the
and-
6-inch stab tip, and they were long swords, like almost max long or whatever.
Yeah, so I
And-
guess not 5 feet because that would be 48 inches, I guess.
And then they had PVC handguards that were made to look sort of like a fencing rapier's.
Yeah, they were kind of curled.
I guess more like a cutlass or something. One that has like a true hand guard that covers your hand or whatever. But Metro made the hand pieces, the hand guard pieces, and then it was split PVC and heated and turned and everything. So I had to pad those just in case, because I don't know the full rules with hand guards and stuff. And then it was the Tractor Supply $1.50 cores or whatever.
Oh, the fiberglass fence posts.
Yeah, that I used at full length basically, and it was slightly whippy, and people could fail it for too much whip potentially, but you can. It's more or less fine.
Well, because they're stab only, the whip really doesn't give much of an effect.
Kind
like,
of,
you know.
yeah. I mean, I definitely stabbed Zeb once, and it turned into a U, and that was really amusing.
Well, that's the satisfying part. You get the good stab, and it makes the rainbow that indicates a good stab.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I think that they were made to be fun park weapons too.
100%.
You weren't making them necessarily to.
I mean, they're safe, but they may not follow the letter of the law, kind of thing.
Yeah, but the thing to illustrate here though is that this isn't just if something like weapon experimentation, shield experimentation sounds fun to you. There's not just one way to approach this. There's many different ways that you can approach it. Jeff and Lexi have made some awesome weapons that did not cost very much at all. I think that they kind of pioneered this method of making shields, at least locally, where it's spray foam like you would use in your walls or something like that.
Large gap foam.
Large gap foam done in a very particular way where once it's hardened, it's a shield in Amtgard. I mean, you when I say that, you think, oh, the first shot and that's just going to crumble, but it doesn't.
We thought that too, to be perfectly honest, and you can kind of quibble on how quote unquote legal it is, but once you kind of accept the fact that we have the ability to use plywood as our core and still need, a ½ inch, I think, on the face or whatever, which is slightly more than a normal layer of EVA or blue foam or something, and you just go, I'm going to put one layer. There's no real difference between that and like a plywood, and it's really it's not much heavier, but it is a little heavier than our normal shield foam.
The plank foam.
Yeah, the plank foam boards and stuff like that. So you can make different sizes and shapes and things like that a little easier than with anything else, because you kind of make like if you think about making a concrete stair or something like that, where you kind of have the outline of wood and then you fill it in, it's kind of the same process.
You just have the outline of foam and then you fill it in with more foam.
Yeah. But yeah,
I just like watching them made, because then you get to a certain point and you just sort of like sink your trowel handle into it.
Oh, yeah.
Make your little indent.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can approach experimentation like this. And if something like that interests you, I think the thing to keep in mind here is just what Patches was talking about earlier. Be pretty scientific about it. Keep good notes for yourself. If you don't want to write them down, that's fine if you're the type that can just remember them. But what makes stuff like that work, I feel like, is being able to say at the end, this is what went wrong with this one, and this is what I'm going to change for the future ones.
Even if you're one of the people who can kind of keep up with it in your head, your documentation can actually be really useful for someone else.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. I'd love to see a community of people that are kind of teching like that. I think that'd be pretty. Maybe there's already one out there. If any of you are a part of a community like that, leave us in the comments.
As far as like weapon making or something like that, maybe not so much. But there's some of the like, foam weapon making type stuff. There's like the foam smithing.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
There's a few like Facebook groups and stuff like that are for cosplay and this, that, and the other, but there's plenty of people who are directly from Amtgard on a lot of those as well, that if you're looking to do plastidip type stuff, that you can get through with all of that as well.
Speaking of doing a lot of like experimentation stuff, you have played Archer or Scout or something else that could use a bow for quite some time.
I have.
Would you say that it's your favorite class? A bow-based class of some kind?
Bow-based classes, if I have to play a battle game, if I am forced in some way, and I just don't have a choice. If I have a bow at hand, I want to play something with that.
Fair. I know that your whole belt line has done quite a bit of what I'll call shop work on, like bow selection, string selection, types of arrows.
Yep.
And that maybe just Zeb or you and Zeb or a combination of other people have been working on trying to perfect some new arrowheads and things like that.
The motherfucker had the prototypes in his pocket at a baby shower today.
Oh yeah.
He did pull them because he knew that there was going to be a lot of Amtgarders at this baby shower. He just brought them with him as oh hey, look, these were accidentally in my pocket.
Yeah. Oh, is it a boy or a girl? Hey, so anyway, I've got these prototypes here. You just look what I made. And I'm like, fucking why?
So Stinkfoot wasn't the only inspiration for that kind of play. It's pretty prevalent in your Beltline too, where there's a lot of fun experimentation. But it led me into something. You've won quite a few archery tournaments between here and our parent kingdom of Neverwinter, because we used to have to go down there to compete in tournaments.
Right.
And we have a tournament coming up. This is somewhat unique for us here in Winter's Edge because it's the first time that archery is going to be included as one of the primary categories in one of our tournaments.
Really?
In a number of years.
Modern times, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that it's never happened. It's that it's been, would you say 10 years or more?
If I had to guess, yeah. I don't know for sure. Like, it's been around in the Kaporo to be an option, but due to, I guess, like, outside pressures, like we have talked about before, about how like, nationalizing the standard of a sword knight and things like this, we've opted for all of the melee martial stuff. And I really think that there's just not a good definition or standard for, like, an archery bracket. So
yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't like archery as if you're going to limit it to 5 categories. I don't like archery as one of the 5, only because it is cost prohibitive, and you're going to see what I mean when we get into talking about this in just a moment. But it's not that not everyone can have a bow. Cade, who has been on the show before. By the way, has it been announced?
No, it's not been announced yet.
So Squire Cade has no spoilers. Squire Cade has found a way to do PVC bows. He's not the first one that has ever done this, so it's not even that bows have to be expensive.
Well, his are actually same with those Tractor Supply things. The PVC he used for the Cias or whatever they're called, because PVC can explode during certain temperatures, so careful with the PVC bows that are fully that.
But the when you're adding it as one of the main 5, though, I feel like you're cost limiting it, because especially if your kingdom is the type that does stationary archery rather than combat archery, a bow that a really good bought bow is going to be better than a homemade bow. I will be generous and say 9 times out of 10.
Well,
I really think it's
things,
10 times
right?
out of 10.
Yeah,
but,
probably. Limb speed is kind of a big deal. I think Justin knows quite a bit about that. But like, just because your bow pulls 35 pounds doesn't mean that it's exactly equivalent to another bow that pulls 35 pounds.
Right.
Yeah. It's there's a difference in which at what point does your bow reach 35 pounds, and more importantly, like the limb flex and how quickly can they return to form. So like if you have something that's made out of PVC versus something that's made out of carbon fiber, you're gonna have a bad day.
Yeah,
trying
and to give you a visual of this too, like if this is the top of the bow, a PVC bow might have to bend this far in order to get its full 35 pounds. Justin's bow, which Justin, you have had bows that for like professional Olympic style archery and things like that. This was a very strong hobby of yours outside of Amtgard.
For a while, until I realized how expensive it actually got.
Yeah. So Justin's bow, which is a really nice bow that has been retooled to work within our game, it has new arms on it to work within our game, might, for example, only have to flex this far, which for those that aren't on the visual medium here, the PVC bow, in my example, had to flex 6 inches or so to get to its 35 pounds.
It has to flex back to like 60 degrees versus...
Where Patches here, his bow might only have to flex 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch, an inch. So it can build up more power to explode. I'm so sorry for that in post, but it can build up more power to to explode out more quickly. That's why I say that I feel like it's somewhat cost limiting.
It is, now whatever decisions have been made, and there's for that tournament, I'm happy to see archery. However, in my opinion on that, archery should have been an addition to, as opposed to a replacement of. And that's just how I feel on that, because archery takes such a long amount of time. And if we're worried about making sure that people are able to do the thing, so we're not trying to gatekeep anyone, and more importantly, we're worried about time, then what you have literally done is you have found the worst possible solution to your problem and implemented it immediately.
Well, also, I mean, just to add on to that, there are very few venues where we can use bows.
That's
for
true.
Amtgard.
Yeah, Georgia's just flat out.
Yeah,
if you're at a state park. Anyway.
I don't know if any of our other listeners from other kingdoms have run into this, but we have actually had a problem here in Georgia specifically, which is one place that we hold events, and perhaps Tennessee too, at some of our state parks, that they don't allow projectiles of that type. You got to remember that they're making these rules as carte blanche rules so that people don't come and
for
hunt
insurance
deer.
purposes.
Yeah, and insurance purposes and everything like that. So, yeah, I don't know if that's been a problem for anybody else, but it's definitely come up here more than once now.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough find to find, and I think that's one of the reasons we're doing it is we found a place where it's allowed.
Yeah.
And we were able to get the venue, so it's like, fuck it, let's go.
There's actually a large call, just in general, in Amtgard, not just Winter's Edge, for like things to include archery with, not necessarily weapon masters, but tournaments and award lines and stuff like this too. So it's not something that we shouldn't be doing per se. It's just creating the avenue to do so is probably maybe not the best in a weapon master. Maybe it is. You can make the argument there, but because the cost and aspect of it, you can already go to different kinds of gear, as we talked about with patches, and even with melee stuff, the gear discrepancy based on price is there as well. So
I mean, so Jeff has made the point before, and I agree with him that while I'm sitting here saying, just as a counterpoint to what Patches and I were saying, while I'm here saying, hey, it's really expensive and that's why you shouldn't do it, Jeff has correctly pointed out before that people are willing to pay $100, $120 for a really good sword from, I don't know how much Gorg swords are or the WAK Excalibur is now or anything like that. I haven't checked their prices recently. But I'm saying in general, there are some expensive swords out there to get, and people still buy those.
It is true. If you have the expendable income to do so, you can do those things, and there are issues in place no matter which way you go with it, and there's really nothing you can do about that discrepancy of people having more money than you, aside from finding a way to have more money than them. That's the only way you can really do that, or take the money from them, and which.
One of those is a crime and not endorsed by the hosts of this podcast.
Yeah.
I'll let you figure out which.
So if you have those situations in play, when we're talking about like different levels of equipment when it comes to like bows and arrows and things like that, then you can get just astronomical in prices. I mean, a set of limbs for an Olympic level recurve bow range in value between $800 to $1,000 for the limbs. And that's kind of on a low end, really, if you're thinking about it, and for just practice and things like that. And then you get into other things like a riser and things like that. Now, granted, I want to make it very clear that I do not use an Olympic level longbow or recurve bow at Amtgard events, because I'm not bringing that particular piece of equipment anywhere near the rest of you heathens. Yeah. And because you're like, I'm not going to be like, oh, block, no, that's okay, you can hit me, it's fine. You're not hitting my bow, like, because my bow that I've used for a while was I believe it's a Martin, and it's a saber, and it's a really nice bow, very easy to use, has a really, really big rest on it, so that when you like rest your arrow, you can quickly draw and loose that. But it's something to remember that the gear is really is only as good as you, because like I can give someone who's never shot a bow a really good bow and they're still going to suck.
Right.
It's just like it's not going to magically make you better. It's something in paintball that we used to have when I played paintball for years and years. Is like people would buy expensive markers, and by this markers I mean gun. It's a thing that people would buy above their skill level and beyond their skill level. And then they'd be like, well, you know, I have this gun, so I should be this good. Like, no, not really. How long have you practiced? It doesn't matter that you have the best equipment. If you have no time in, then all you've done is bought a really expensive paperweight for yourself. And now one day, if you practice a lot, it'll be great for you. But if you don't practice at all, then it just sits there. And it's not going to do the work for you.
Right.
It's like upgrading your computer to play League of Legends.
Yeah, well, I was actually going to say that this is very counter to the culture that we often live in nowadays. All four of us are gamers.
Yeah.
All four of us are,
Something of a gamer myself.
Yeah, a little bit of a gamer. That have these other hobbies where upgrades are involved, and I feel like the culture that gets pushed on us now is if you don't have the best gear out there, then you are lacking in some way.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And
that actually seems more like a cultural phenomenon lately, where it's like, no matter what your hobby is, you have to be amazing at it. Mm-hmm. Like I see this not just in Amtgard, but like everywhere. It's like, your hobby is making artisan sourdough. Show me the best thing you've ever made. Did you enter a competition? Do you sell your starter on Etsy? Like, no, I don't. I just make pretty bread. And it's like, then you're not in a sourdough.
I know that when World of Warcraft came back out from Classic, and people were just like, yeah, I'm going to upgrade my PC. And like,
fucking why?
Why? You could run this on most toasters if you really needed to. Yeah. I know that there's
Jeff, why are you on the refrigerator?
Yeah.
I'm hungry and I'm still playing. So fuck off.
Yeah.
It's a Samsung smart fridge, dear.
Yeah, right.
I've got a raid and I have to do this. And
overclock real quick. Set this drawer to vegetable.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last kind of thought on archery here. I think that archery is one of the funner parts of the game. I also think it's one of the more expensive parts in the game, not just because of your bow, but because your arrows are going to get accidentally stepped on. They're going to, flights will get knocked off, knocks will get knocked off. There's a maintenance cost to stuff like that.
Accidentally get stolen and disassembled by some rando.
Possibly.
Yeah.
So there, I love that. I love that it's in the game, and I love what it brings to the game, especially in battle games. It's a dynamic that you don't really get anywhere else. But it can get really expensive, and especially in the area that we've been discussing here, where it's more of like a tournament format with either combat archery or something else. Your ability to quickly get an arrow knocked and pulled is the life or death of you there. And I'm with you. I love archery, and I actually like it in tournament format too. I just don't like it as one of the only five.
Again, like I feel like the tournament aspect becomes we don't have a true standardized way to do it. Like if you go to Weapon Masters elsewhere, you pretty much know what to expect. It may be how it seeds in or something like that's going to be different, but when it boils down to it, it's a single 1 to 3 fights, right? Where it's 1v1 and you know exactly what to expect because it's the same rules all over the place because we fight by the same rules.
That's
Archery's not that way. We have stationary, speed, combat, just the three off the top of my head, and I'm sure there's more than that, right?
There's a
horseback.
Yeah, right. There can be more than that. It depends. I think Hogman has a decent setup for a combat set and things like that. So like, it's another format that'd be actually kind of cool to do archery by itself, and then you run those 3 formats through it. So you have an archery tournament where the first heat is stationary, the second heat is stationary for distance, right? So you'd all do 50 feet, and then you'd go back 5 feet, and everyone who misses drops off, and then you rotate until you find one, right, or something like that. And then you have combat where it's the Hogman style combat archery, and then you have speed archery, which is done at Neverwinter, where it's kind of a mix of precision and speed, where it's like you have 5 arrows or something like that.
You have 3 arrows.
3 arrows, and then you shoot at a stationary target, and the first one to hit all 3 wins automatically, and then...
No, it's because you the first person to knock the target over wins.
Oh, okay.
And once your 3 arrows are spent, you're done.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can do that as well for a third heat, and then have the winner of that do something. I don't care. Like give them you can adopt into your Capora like a ladder award that's an archery thing. I know that someone's done.
Polaris, maybe Polaris has. Merrick, let us know if Polaris has in the comments.
Right.
But
I think
Nine
it's
Blades.
Nine Blades.
Nine Blades has an Order of the Sharpshooter, and if I have understood correctly, they do archery tournaments up there on the regular, not necessarily as part of the Weapon Master, but maybe. But they actually hold separate just archery tournaments, and the Orders of Sharpshooter can also be given for stuff in battle games or anything like that. And I like that it put a little bit more attention on archery. I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Like archery is a great aspect of the game. I've had a lot of fun with it. I enjoy the tournaments when we do get to have them. That's something, as Jeff was saying, there's such a wide variety. It's hard to do that and make it an exact representation of your skill as an archer, because this is supposed to represent your ability to fight in the main game, as it were. Or at least it's a representation, just like in a tournament is your representation of your ability to fight that way. So what's a better representation? Is it standing still and firing at a stationary target, or is it ducking and weaving and dodging and firing at another opponent that's also an archer? There's so many different ways you could say, like, you're a good archer for this, and mean it in a different way. It's like, you're a great combat archer, you're a great this, that, or the other.
So we have spent the last 35-ish minutes talking about archery, and if that's what we came to do, that's fine. But I kind of wanted to turn it over. I wanted to drop something, and then I kind of wanted to turn it over to you, Patches, and kind of let you, what is the question we should be asking, right? What is the thing you want to talk about? I mean, it's your stage. This is sort of your episode. So where do you want this to go?
Well, when it comes to like the things I like most about the game and things like that, is just the most important part about Amtgard is the people that you meet. It is not about, like, what award you're at, or what tournament you won last, or who is it that hates you the most right now. And we could talk about all of those things, but like the people that I've met and the stories I have will last far beyond my ability to play this game. And that's more important to me than any of the rest of this. And anything else I've ever done, hopefully it's great. And hopefully the people that know me or like me, or know me and hate me, have stories in that regard. And like there was the instance I was talking about with Marlon, right?
Yeah.
So we were late, I believe, to the jugging competition, and Marlon had already left, and Marlon had locked the keys, or like he'd locked the door and taken the keys with him, so we had no way of getting our equipment out, which is in there, except we kind of did, because I'd been practicing lockpicking for like a while, and I was just like, well, I mean, like, I could probably open the lock, I could probably, and they're just like, yeah, okay, sure, you could, it's like, you're just trying to be impressive, it's just like, and I'm like, no, seriously, guys, I could do it. I just basically need permission to, do this on someone's door. It's not mine. Like, I can't just do that. And they're like, we give you permission, just go. And I'm like, all right, I guess, this, you guys know Marlon, he's your friend, it's on you. And I just had like a simple set in my back pocket, and I took it out, and I walked over, and as I was walking over, Hosher was just like, I'm gonna time you. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever, man. And like, I go over to his door, and just, there we go. And it's like 22 seconds.
Hosh comes screaming back over to the van. It was only 22 seconds.
And like, top and bottom lock opened, and he's like, what else can we unlock? I'm like, absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. This was only because we know this person. You can't just open people's doors.
Who practices crime?
Oh yeah. When I told Marlon later about this, he was just like, he's like, let me get this straight. You picked the lock on my door? I'm like, yeah, man, I did.
That's what happened.
That's what happens. Like, well, how did you know how to do that? And it's like, I don't know. I practice lockpicking. It's like, man, who practices crime? And, we're just going to disregard the fact that, Marlon has given his house keys to like 9 or 10 different women that night.
I was going to say that night. Yeah.
It's funny. The very first time that I came up to your house to hang out, we were picking locks.
Yeah.
Like we had locks set in a vise.
I gave you a set.
I still have them. I keep them in my wallet.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Which is perfectly fine. By the way, for those of you that want to know, having lockpicks in the state of Tennessee is not a crime. It's really not a crime anywhere. The time in which it is a crime is when you are trespassing, because it's an additional thing onto that. So if you have lockpicks or bypass tools in your pocket and you just so happen to be trespassing on someone's property, they can nail you for trespass. And then if they search your person, find the lockpicks, then that's intent. So
speaking of intent, we would
what
we would intend for all of you to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and also click that bell notification. We check the statistics, and I'm currently lying because I didn't, but I'm going to assume that like 90% of you aren't subscribed because that's what all of the other YouTube channels say.
Yeah.
So all of you should really go and subscribe. Joking aside, it really does help us put out more content. It allows us to do more things on YouTube. So if you like what we do, go ahead and subscribe. We would really, really love it, and I really ran out of steam there at the end for that one.
You have to do it right, man. You said, just remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell.
We've been okay. Here's the thing: we've been doing this for a year and a half now, and it's still a shock to me when he does it. I never know when he's going to drop him in. I never know when it's coming until the moment before it happens, and it feels like when you know you're going to get hit by a car. I'm like, oh fuck, he's doing the thing every time.
You really need to do it at the beginning of your
episode.
Yeah, I fucking know, but I've left it up to Flo. I've decided he's going to be the like, share, subscribe, ding the bell guy, and he just sort of puts him in there somewhere.
Yeah. No, it's but yeah, like when it comes to Amtgard just in general, like the stories that you have with people, the events that you've gone to, the stupid things you've done, the shit you have gotten away with.
Oh yeah.
is probably, those are going to be the things that matter to you most. And I know that a lot of us are all chasing belts, or we're doing this or we're doing that, and we're trying to get those wins, we're trying to get those box tops so that we can get our thing. But that isn't going to matter when there's going to be a day that you're really not going to be able to pick up that stick and swing it the way you used to. And that's just how that's going to go. And it's going to go that way for all of us. And whether you like it or not, the biggest and most defining thing about life, the reason it is valuable in the first place, is because it ends. And all of the intervening time that you have between start and stop, between the beginning of your book and the end of your book, is the people you meet along the way, the stories that you have, and how interesting that book is for other people to read.
Yeah.
Sorry to make that like a TED talk.
No, yeah. That's okay. I like it.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So we are coming up to the point in the episode where we usually ask our guests for a story or a kind of wild thing that's happened in Amtgard.
Okay.
Do you got any that aren't crime?
Yeah, I do have some that are not crime.
Okay. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So, now, not every archery contest do I win. And all of you are either there for this or know this. So we were down in Neverwinter, and I was shooting against my knight. I was shooting against Gillen, and we were at the end, and he was doing this really awful Soldier 76. Just every time he'd win, he would do this, and he would turn,
the fist pump,
and he would turn and do the pose. And at the time, we were playing a lot of Overwatch, way too much. And I had fumbled an arrow, and he'd shot, and he'd got the thing. And he's doing the thing, and I was like, hold on, jackass, we still have one more to go. You haven't won just yet. And he went for the next shot, and I knocked it, I pulled it back, and I knew before I loosed it that he had won. So I just swung my bow down and shot him in the dick. And because it was perfectly timed because he was just turning to do that obnoxious fucking pose. And I shot him and just dropped him right there. And I just leaned down and just went, "You won, buddy." And he told me later, he's just like, "I've never been so mad and so proud."
At the same time.
At the same time.
We call that humbled. You've never been so humbled.
Yeah, as be humble or get humbled.
Oh, that's awesome.
But he beat me in that one. I think I got second or third, and he got first on that one. And I just remember, like, because as soon as I had done it, I don't remember making the conscious decision to do it.
I don't know. It came over me.
It's just like I just turned and just shot him in the dick just because, and it was full draw. It was not like a small thing. Like I snapped it.
This is nowhere inside the rules. This is revenge on your knight.
Yeah, this is revenge on my knight. Had it not been Zeb, it would have never happened. But and I remember looking over at the judges, and I went, "Oh, so that's everyone in the kingdom that saw that."
Yeah.
Oh, well. If they laugh, I'm not banned.
Yeah.
So, and so that was a really, really funny thing that I had done to my knight, and a lot of people were in favor of that, which I don't know what that says.
It's strange that everybody was cool with that. I
mean, you start looking around and everyone's laughing. Well, except for Gillen. Gillen wasn't.
No, a lot of people. He was on the ground.
Yeah, he was trying to.
Yeah.
He laughs about it now.
He does. Yeah.
He thinks it's the funniest fucking story. I've done a lot of things in Amtgard, and there's been some things I've done, and I'm just like, yeah, that's not probably good.
The best decision.
Yeah, best decision I've ever made. But for the most part, I've had just a great time. I am so unspeakably lucky to have the type of talent surrounding me that I do. It's just amazing. Maybe not currently, but the type of people that we have at our park is crazy. I mean, what did you say at one point? Like, how many nights are at our park?
God, it's disgusting.
Before Bunch passed away, we were going to have 8 nights at our park of roughly 20 to 30 people, we'll say.
Awesome. What was the average of nights per park?
1, maybe.
Yeah,
it's not
point something.
Yeah, it was below 1.
Yeah, with our park bringing the average up.
Yeah.
I've made the point to Vidalia before that playing at Radiant Valley is kind of like the being born in America of Amtgard.
It's so true.
Like, I hate to say that, but we've got a night for everything, and there's a lot of talent at our park. We're extremely lucky. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's the reason I've made the type of the type of climbs that I have, and like those plateaus have been a lot shorter for me than other people because I didn't have to go out and find someone. I was just like, "Hey, Flo, let's do this thing," and and I would go and do that thing. Now, like Flo's belt that he has, and the belt he's currently going after is puts Flo in direct competition with me, which is why I tend to go have an extra slice of cake, Flo.
How did you? Justin and I had a conversation a little while back. He's like, "Hey man, so I had been having some health problems about a year and a half or so back, and it turns out that I was pre-diabetic. No big surprise. I'm 6'4" and weigh over 300 pounds." And he's like, "Oh, that's horrible, man." And then every time after that, he'd be like, "Hey, do you want to go out and get some donuts or?"
Yeah. For a while there, I was just like, "Come on, we'll get dessert. It'll be great." Yeah, it's just but.
And we did go get a lot of dessert too. It was really good.
Yeah, no, we had we just have so much talent at the park, and there's so many different stories of terrible things that happened. The first time I ever met Zeb, I had made this god awful spear. It was one of those things that Beefy looked at it and he said, "It's ugly but legal," and that was like one of my first.
That's the best thing that can be said about it.
Yeah, it's ugly but legal, and it's kind of whippy and awful. It's made out of PVC and it's awful. and heavy, all kinds of terrible things. But it was short, and I tend to prefer shorter spears because of the way I play.
Yeah.
But Zeb had done something. He had, we were fighting, and he was, I guess, determined to show me the error of my ways of fighting a spear. And I had jumped up, twisted around, and like scorpioned Zeb.
Oh, I remember this.
And-
This was when we were over near the pavilion
Yes.
at John Bynum.
Yeah. So like went over my back, popped him in the back, and then like landed like ninja style. Just
This is
like, straight out.
this is the shot that you like dream about in your head.
Yeah.
But that never actually happens. It's what you think your character can do, not what you actually can do. Except that Patches did it perfectly in real life, and it's very much one of those. The whole park paused and did the.
Yeah, and I got it, and I was like, yeah. And I turned back, and I was like, oh no, he's gonna make me his bitch for the rest of the day, because like I'm not gonna be able to do that again, and because this was one of those like I know I'll jump and spin around and do the thing, and like yeah, and it was like because at the time the light was still in my eyes from being new and like excited about the game, and like it hadn't died yet and been replaced by the cynicalness that is there now, but I threw that shot, and Seth was just like looking around going like, good, no one saw that. Like, and but for the rest of the day I was killed first. And that kind of thing happens, and everyone has those moments where you're just like, well, I want to throw this shot, and I want to Achilles this guy or something.
Well, and then you died first, but the rest of the park was like, you remember that one time that Patches Achilles?
Yeah. The rest of the day is unimportant.
Yeah. It's
You've already won.
I've already won the game. As I've often said, it's like the moment that you like run up and do that full Achilles stab to someone. If they're a really good player, you've won Amtgard. You're done.
Yeah,
you're done. You can pack
you
it up.
legit. If people catch it,
Yeah.
that story is something that's told around the campfire.
Yeah.
all the time.
Like you've won. Your name is secured. You don't need a belt. They know who you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's. I mean, there's a lot of stories. Some of those I'm more free to tell than others.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sad thing in a way that we've evolved, whatever way you want to go about it into that.
Yeah, there's a lot of those stories that I'm just like, I'm certain that the statute of limitations isn't up yet.
I've said many times on the podcast before, I'll say it again now. There was a time where you could get away with things in Amtgard that you simply cannot do nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
If you did the things in some of the stories that we personally still tell each other when we're over at somebody's house barbecuing and drinking, you would get banned just immediately.
Yeah.
And probably in all good rights.
And in all good rights.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it like, oh, it would be a bad thing that you're banned. I'm saying it like, wow, we didn't get banned back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I mean, they've forged a lot of the stories that we still tell.
Oh yeah.
Today. So I know that we're probably just a little bit over time now, but I want to take a moment to say thank you again to all of our Patreons. If you were one of our Patreons, you would have known that Patches was going to be on. You would be a member of our Discord right now and would have been able to submit a question for Patches for us to do on air. And I did not tell Patches we were going to be doing this. So, Patches, our Patreons had a question for you.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
I know who your patrons are.
So actually, this is going to be a softball one. This isn't going to be a really tough question for you.
Cool.
Patreon question for you, Patches. What is your favorite event that you've ever been to, and why?
My favorite event that I have ever been to. Probably my favorite event I've ever been to is probably SKBC.
It's a good one.
SKBC because like everyone's learning, and I got to watch Zeb struggle through teaching a class.
Oh man,
and like
I didn't make it to that one.
And like it was good times, but like it was there was just a significant skill level, and you get to really see what's out there and what you are actively up against.
Yeah.
Because that's something that's pretty important to know. And that's why it's one of my favorite events, and also because there were some life lessons taught at SKBC that I personally will never forget. One is the hotel that you're staying at. If you tell them, hey, dude, so there's blood on my pillow. Could you do something about that? And it's not mine. So, like, it was here when I got here. That seems bad. And they just flip it over. You should find a different hotel.
Yeah, we actually that's the hotel that we nearly got kicked out of because of we were on the second floor. We can't tell that one on air, actually. So thank you again so much. And if you're not already a patron, there will be information in the comments below
Whack-a-lite.
Yeah, a whack-a-lite.
God damn it.
On how to go ahead and change the name.
Yeah. Fuck.
On how to subscribe to that. If you thought that was too much of a softball question, then you should join. I think we even have a $1 entry or $2 entry into here.
$1.99 is the lowest tier. Yeah.
And everything that we collect from this is going to go towards only two things ever. It is going to go towards us doing some equipment upgrades. You can see that part of our mics are being held together by string.
God.
And the other one is if it's not going towards equipment upgrades of some kind, then it will be in some way donated to a charity that our Patreons will be able to vote on. Right now, we're mainly focused on trying to improve some of our equipment that has broken down over the year and a half we've been doing this. But we always keep our Patreons apprised of that. Not only that, but you get access to some of our exclusive content that the rest of you can't know about.
We do have a couple things in the works that'll be going up probably before the end of January. Don't want to commit super hard to that, but there's some things going up either end of January, very early February, that our Patreons will get exclusive access to first.
Cool.
Patches, thanks for your time.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you so much, man.
We'll see you. Bye.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube or Spotify to get notified about new episodes. And make sure to follow us on Facebook for announcements and more.